John?
All right, Adam, thank you.
Good for them. Live Desk is up next.
And welcome to the Live Desk on a Friday afternoon. Look what we have for you coming out of Dallas, Texas, actually in the Garland, Texas area. This is on I-45. This truck has been involved in a high-speed pursuit now for the better part of 1 hour. It looks to be a light blue or gray F-150 Ford truck. The windows are tinted, so it's hard to see if there's one passenger in there or if there's just the driver. But we can tell you right now, police have been in pursuit now, this thing reaching speeds upwards of 70 miles per hour at certain times. 6 patrol cars by our count are trailing this thing in the Dallas area. A lot of things going into how long this car chase will go on. We believe the suspect inside was initially wanted because he filled up his gas tank and then drove away without paying. And as the police officers tried to lay down a spike strip, this driver apparently, according to reports from KDFW, tried to go after one of the police officers. That turns this into an automatic felony. And if you're in Texas, which is a 3-strike state, and you committed a felony and you have previous record, this could mean you're going away for quite some time. Again, it's an F-150, a Ford, on Interstate I-45, and this is how we begin the Live Desk on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. I mean, way to make police following you unhappy. This car apparently went at one of the police officers as he was laying down that spike strip, as Trace told you, so you can bet that these police are extra motivated to bring this person in, and this is the kind of process that we see in these all the time. It's a moderate speed chase at this point. They don't want anybody to get hurt. They're going to tail this guy, and, you can bet in the end, because that's what we see, I mean, literally 100% of the time, right?
Always.
I mean, they do eventually get their man in this situation. Sometimes people get hurt along the way, though, and that's the biggest concern right now. We do think he went over a spike strip a couple of minutes ago, and we may be starting to see the signs of that. You can see that left back tire, it looks like, starting to sputter a little bit.
You just saw the police officer on the side of the road throw out that spike strip. They kind of throw him out there, and it looks like the truck went over a spike strip. It may have been for the second time, and it looks to us like at least one of his tires may have deflated in this. We got a couple of different views for you there. This is from the wide view you see, and the left-hand side of the screen is from KDFW. That's our powerhouse Fox affiliate, Fox 4 in the Dallas area. On the right-hand side, that is KTVT, which is our network news service affiliate down there, kind of giving you two different angles. You can see police trying to jockey in front of this man. The odds are good. They will try and keep in a position where they can get into that pit maneuver, where they can go and they can bump the rear side of one of the back sides of the truck. You can see them kind of maneuvering in there. That will spin him, if you will. You can see this driver in front trying to keep him behind there to try and slow this whole thing down.
Yeah, I mean, that car in front is doing some interesting moves. I haven't really seen, that kind of slow driving in front of the car before. And, of course, as we said, the windows are tinted. Nobody knows who this person is, whether or not they're of sound mind, whether or not they're armed. So police, it's a very risky situation for folks on the road during something like this, and, indeed, for that car that is up in front of them. But this person is getting boxed in and has definitely lost air in at least one of those back tires that we can tell so far.
And it almost looks like a NASCAR taunting here. You can see him kind of moving over to the left-hand lane there. The car in the right-hand side was trying to keep him in front and now is letting him pass. A couple of things to really pay attention to as we watch this go along. In the past 7 or 8 months, there have been 2 or 3 very highly controversial car chases in and around the Dallas, Texas area. In at least a couple of those, police officers have been reprimanded for the way they have conducted these chases, because a couple of these have ended very badly. A young boy got hurt in one, a man got hurt in another, and there were actually police officers suspended. They go about these in a way that nobody is supposed to get hurt. They kind of gauge how dangerous the driver is. What's he wanted for? Is he carrying a weapon? Is he posing a risk to those on the highway? Is he in an area where there are a lot of pedestrians walking around? And then from there, you kind of go from different county to county, city to city pursuit rules as to how aggressively you follow these people. And that's kind of what plays in here, is that there's a lot of riding on the thing, and the state agencies tend to be more aggressive than the local agencies, quite frankly, because the state has a lot more money than the locals. The locals tend to be sued. The locals have to pay out. They don't like it. The state has more money to play with and therefore is playing with state laws, but they are kind of gauging how aggressive they are in these car chases, and they will do so as this thing continues down I-45.
You know, one surprising thing about this situation is that this one has been on this freeway or highway for a long time. Often we see them pull off at an exit ramp, head into an area that they maybe are a little bit more familiar with, and that's when you start to see, you know, the concerns about pedestrians and often, you know, sort of a looping around in an area that they know. We have no idea where this person is from. Do we know where the license plate is on this truck yet?
They will certainly try and process the license plate. If this person has a cell phone, you can see a police officer just pulled in front. Again, they're kind of throwing out. You can see the police are they're positioning themselves along the route so they can throw these spike strips out there. They can get in front and they can try and kind of maneuver into this guy's purview so they can see him and he can see them, and they can try and get kind of, you know, either wave at him and get him to slow down. They always process the license plate. Sometimes these cars are stolen. Sometimes they're not. If it is the owner of this truck, they would know who it is. They would have the license plate. They would by now have his cell phone number, and they would try and contact him on the cell phone. And the benefit we have here in the Fox newsroom is the live desk comes out of the newsroom, which we say every day is because this is where the news begins. We have Tim Gahn back in the national desk. He's monitoring helicopter traffic from KTVT as well as KDFW. Tim, what are you hearing about what this guy is wanted for doing?
You know, the local reports are, Trace, that, you know, I think you said in the beginning he was filling up his gas tank at a gas station outside of Dallas and took off, didn't pay for the gas. Now, that means one thing immediately. He's got a full tank of gas, so this thing could go on for a very long time. We just passed about an hour and 5 minutes the chase has been going on. Also, I've been monitoring KDFW's air because I can watch their midday show. They've been doing continuous coverage online and on their air. And what they're pointing out now is this front patrol car in the lead. This is the closest a patrol car has come to the suspect vehicle in this chase. They've kept a pretty safe distance the entire day. So right now they're getting as close as they've come. The other thing they're talking a lot about is there's very light traffic this time of day. They're a bit surprised by that. There's usually a little more. Now you can see they're getting in a little crunch here with these two 18-wheelers. But there's been very little traffic. In the beginning of your show, we saw that it looked like someone tried to get involved in that chase. That was a black Jeep that got in the way, so that could be a reason why the cops are getting a lot closer. They don't want any third party to get involved in this. So just keeping an eye out there. I'm noting the back, what we're calling the left tire, as you are. It may be getting low. I've seen at least 3 attempts to put the
spike strips
Spike strips, thank you, out there. And I know that at one point in the chase when they were putting the spike strips out, the suspect swerved at a local police officer. So this guy's in a lot of trouble. Have any of the spike strip hit their mark? We're not sure yet. But I'm watching that back tire like you guys are. I'm going to check back in with the local reports, see what they're saying. But
please do.
We're also heading away from downtown Dallas, going out into much more rural areas. So you can expect other agencies to get involved as we continue farther away from Dallas.
Tim Gahn on the national desk. Tim, thank you.
Yeah, I think we have Chris Gutierrez from the Bureau there on the phone with us. Chris, what are you thinking about this from where you are?
Well, Martha, just to kind of clarify a few things, we know that he's down in Ellis County now, which is probably a good 30 minutes south of downtown Dallas, just to put things in perspective. Also, you heard Tim mention that this started up actually in Grayson County, in this town of Van Alstyne. That's about an hour north of Dallas. So what this guy or lady has done so far, he's cruised through, he or she has been through 4 different counties already. Grayson, down to Collin, then through Dallas County, and now he's in Ellis County. He or she is in Ellis County. And another thing that I want to point out is something that Trace really hit on, and it's the fact that the Department of Public Safety, it's the car there on your far left, with the black and the white markings, they really do play by their own rules. In fact, covering news down in the Houston area, I remember one case where a DPS officer actually shot with his shotgun at the tires because somebody wouldn't pull over. So you see this officer here on the far right kind of pulling over, and I think what we're going to see is the Department of Public Safety really take over here, and it'll be interesting to see what they do, Martha.
Yeah, that's an interesting observation, Chris. And we did just see that police car pull off to the side. You can see there's other cars on this road. There's a horse-carrying vehicle on the right-hand side of the street right now. And whether or not we're going to see any more aggressive action taken against this person is what we're kind of in that wait-and-see mode for. And generally, generally, you know, the process that the driver tends to go through, just based on prior experience, is that they're trying to figure out, you know, how many hours have I got? They're thinking, right? So they're watching this person kind of hopefully wind down in the process of realization that they are going to be taken in eventually, and that they might as well pull over and stay safe and keep other people safe and get on with this process that is ultimately inevitable in 99.99% of these cases.
And it really is a mental climb down, because, and we talked about earlier, the fact that it's a 3-strike state. We have no idea what this guy's wanted for, but in many cases, if they are going to go away for a very long time, and they really will, in this instance, go away for a long time, they have to kind of ponder. They talk to friends on cell phone, we have learned. They talk to family members and say, look, I'm in a whole bunch of trouble. I've done something stupid. I'm about to give up, but not quite yet. And then when they're mentally prepared, they'll slow down. But some, you know, we've seen some of these things end very badly. That's why we stay a distance away here. We stay a distance away because we don't want to see anything that's going to happen that's going to end this thing in a bad way. We've seen hundreds of these things. You can see the DPS officer, or it actually looks like the local police officer pulling in front there. This looks like they could try this pit maneuver. They get one in front, they get the DPS officer behind, and they try and corner this guy in, and then they bump him. They bump him on one side or the other, and the hope is if you have that left rear tire, which Tim Gunn and Chris were talking about, that was kind of deflated, you want to bump him on that side because that's the most unstable side, and that way he would kind of, boom, he would spin out there, and that would stop. We think would stop the car chase.
All right, we got a lot of news today that we're going to cover for you. We're going to keep an eye on this as well. We'll come right back to this right after this very quick break. Stay with us. It's Friday afternoon, everybody, and we are in the middle of a heated car chase right now in near not too far from Dallas, Texas. The pickup truck that you see on the right-hand side of your screen pulled into a gas station, filled it up with gas, and took off. And then the police put out spike strips, and this pickup truck tried to swerve and hit one of the deputies in the police department who was trying to slow him down. That, of course, did not go over well with the police departments all across this area of Texas. Now we have state police departments involved with and also locals as they go along the route. I think they've gone through about 4 counties at this point, this pickup truck, and we don't know a whole lot more about who's in there because the windows are darkened. You don't know if it's one person or two people inside that truck. Spike strips have taken out we think the left rear tire of this what looks to be a Ford F-150 most likely, and the police are hot on the trail of this guy. Harris Faulkner is following this for us as well. Harris, what are you learning?
Well, from the state police perspective, something very important to know. This is about to get conceivably a lot more aggressive. That's what we're hearing now. And you see the difference in the colors of all these squads. When the state police get involved, what they do is they screen the exits and they try to box this guy in even more. And so you're seeing a lot more presence of police. They're in the city of Ellis right now, which is a very rural area about 45 miles south of Dallas, Texas. Boy, I tell you, they got really lucky because they went through downtown, they went through Oak Cliff, and now, I mean, that's typically on a Friday afternoon a very, very populated freeway area. They've come out of all of those populated areas into this basically rural county in the city of Ennis in Ellis County. Amazing that they have not seen anything more violent happen with all of this. Very, very lucky. But you said that they were slowing down, and that's exactly what's happened as the state police get in on this now, and they are typically a lot more aggressive about going around these guys.
Yeah, you can see some of these other cars pulling off to the side. Imagine driving down this highway and you go, whoa, there's something very large going on. I'm coming up my rearview mirror, and I want to definitely get out of the way of it. And we've seen, it's interesting to watch the different police departments pulling alongside this car and getting involved in this chase. And as we said, we always see this process of, you know, sort of what's going through the person's mind as they've got, you know, what could be 5 to 10 cop cars following them, you know, at this moment.
And it's important to note for those just joining us here, it's 16 minutes after the hour. This has been going on now. As you see the driver change lanes in that Ford F-150. It's been going on for the better part of an hour and 15 minutes. There are police scattered along the route. They are trying to toss out those spike strips. We think they have gotten, as Martha said, the left rear tire. It kind of goes back and forth. Police kind of fall back for a while, and then the state patrol, the highway patrol, if you will, versus the local police, the highway patrol become more aggressive, and they go after these things in a more aggressive fashion. We have learned over the years that one thing that a lot of these drivers have in common is the fact they try and go toward ground or territory that they are familiar with, areas that they know. So as long as the car chases go on, these people, they think if there's any chance at all to get away, it's to go where they know, to go in their own neighborhoods, to go in their own own cities because they believe they know the roads better. It never works, but it's at least a theory the drivers have as they start rationalizing what they're doing right now. Chris Gutierrez is our correspondent down in the Dallas area, and Chris, you have some brand new information on this.
Well, we know that he's getting close to Navarro County now, Trace. So he's already cruised through, again, recapping Grayson County, Collin County, down through Dallas County. Right now he's in Ellis County, but he's getting real close to Navarro County. And here's an interesting thing for that part of the area, Trace. Our photographer here in the Dallas Bureau tells me that there's some construction going on down there. And so things could get really hairy because it'll actually go down to 2 lanes, this highway down to 2 lanes, and there are barricades, those concrete medians on either side. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But again, he's creeping closer to Navarro County now, Trace.
Yeah, we got KDFW there. And you see the funny thing you notice in all these things is as you talk about the mindset, he changed from the middle lane to the left-hand lane. And what does he do? He turns on his signal. So he signals to go from one lane to the next. He's facing a laundry list of charges right now, including speeding. You're talking about going after police officers, leaving a gas thing. And what does he do? Okay. He changes lanes.
Yeah, but
and
you wouldn't want to get an extra violation for not signaling when you're changing lanes, right?
He's like, okay, I'm just going to tabulate this now. I got a lot of tickets on there. Okay, I'm going away for this amount of time. He's probably on the phone with his lawyer saying, look, if you're going to do anything, signal before you change lanes.
And the police, of course, have a whole lot more information on this driver than we do at this point. They know whether or not this person is dangerous, whether or not they have a record. They're likely trying to reach them by every means possible, see if he's got a cell phone in his car. A lot of time you hear it back and forth between the driver and the police, somebody encouraging them they might want to perhaps pull over and end this situation. But it always amazes me. I mean, there's all the different junctures at which this person could have ended this, right? He fills up the tank and leaves, doesn't pay. Okay, there's the first moment where he could just pull off to the side and say, all right, I messed up. Can I bring you the money tomorrow? Can I leave you a check? Can I give you the keys to my car? None of that happened. He pulls out. Then he realizes that he's being chased, that the police are onto him. And what does he do in that situation rather than pull over and speak to the police and apologize and say, let's begin this process? He actually drives at one of the deputies who's trying to throw out spike strips. That has just elevated his situation dramatically because he has threatened to injure in a very real way a police officer in the line of duty. So now you've got a whole nother game plan going here. And at this point now, he's been driving them on a chase for almost an hour now, right?
Well, it's almost an hour and 20 minutes by our clock. And I think that's it. Tim, have we got the time right? About an hour and 20 minutes involved in this thing?
Yeah, that's about right. I'm listening to KDFW's coverage. And, that's why we bring Chris Gutierrez in. He can speak to the area. They, of course, know this area very well. 2 things I'm noting, which you guys have noted as well. They did note the guy using his blinker, guy or woman. But they do remark that this suspect is a pretty skilled driver. He or she has gone around spike strips at least 3 times, hasn't caused any accidents. One thing I've noted from Harris's reporting is the state police have now they're leading the charge against this guy. They're leading the chase. They really are controlling this highway. They're keeping people safe. They're not letting anyone else on it. Most of the traffic ahead of the chase has been cleared. They've closed down most of the exits. So while the chase is going on, they really appear to have full control. They're just letting it play out. They've closed the exit and not letting anyone else on.
Yeah, letting it play out now for the better part of an hour and 20 minutes. Tim Gaughton, back to you with breaking information. We are watching a car chase in the Dallas, Texas area that has been going on now for quite some time through quite a number of counties, up to speeds at 70 miles per hour. We think the driver is wanted for trying to go after a police officer when he tried to lay the spike strips down, as well as leaving, filling up his gas tank, and then leaving without paying. Continuing coverage on the live desk, a high-speed chase in Dallas. We're getting very close to what we think may be the end, but who knows? Next.
All right, moments ago, you heard the entire newsroom go, whoa, because this guy got bumped. They thought that he blew out the front left tire, I believe, but it doesn't look to be the case. The car kind of, swaggered back and forth a little bit. Seems to be back on track now, but it does seem to be going a little bit slower than it was in the past. So we may, this guy's going to start running out of options as these tires start going down. If he loses 2 of them, he's going to be in pretty rough shape. And that is sometimes when we see the jump out of the car and the run. He's not really near any residential areas where he can get lost in the trees or, run around the houses, as we've often seen happen in the past. He is really way out in the open still.
We've got that video, by the way, we just showed you. This guy has avoided those spike strips. Here he is okay, he's coming around the cars. They throw the spike strip out. Look at it. He goes in here. You can see the police officer right there. He almost goes into the median there. And then he comes back on. There's a truck coming up here he's going to go around. Look at this. Now watch him kind of sneak in right here. Goes left. Boom, and now he's back around this truck. That was to go around the spike strip in between the trucks and back out. And now if we can take this back live, we'll take you where
let's
we
go back live.
Back live. Here he is.
His tire was falling apart, right, you guys? The tire was basically coming apart.
Yeah, the left rear tire, you can see is coming up. We've seen these guys go for a few miles just on the rims here.
We may get to find out who's in this car pretty soon, because I'm guessing that he is about running out of steam.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because William Lajeunesse is messaging me, and we were talking about the statistics of who gets away and who doesn't get away. And after they follow these things up, at least in California, 53% of those involved in these said they would run at all costs. 63% believe they will get away with it,
right.
and 20% actually get away.
20%?
We've never seen one. We've never seen one, but the stats are that 20% actually get away with car chases. I've never in my life seen one. I did see one person go into the Beverly Hills Mall. And they went in the mall, and they actually made it in the parking garage and got inside the mall before they caught him. But that's as close as I've seen.
Caught him.
As you
so
see,
that's almost, what is it, one in five, basically, gets away.
And
so next time this happens, you might want to consider hitting the gas.
Hit the gas and go to a mall. And you see this right here as we've got a couple of different angles on this. We got KDFW, our Fox affiliate. This is from KTVT, our network news service affiliate. It's been going on now for an hour and 26 minutes. The left rear tire is almost on the rim. It's almost on metal, but we have seen these things go for quite some time on the metal. It depends how much intestinal fortitude the person inside the car has to keep this thing going.
It does. Well, you know, I'm always amazed. Aren't you always amazed? I always think, you know, if I hit something, if you ride over something on the highway, think, there goes my car, right? But, I mean, it's amazing how far these things can go on metal with the wheel clanking around on the road. We've seen them go for, 15, 20 minutes like that.
But the good thing is here is when they get that thing on metal, the police will know that as this thing slows down, because you can only go a certain speed. When you're driving on the rims, you can go, but you can only go a certain speed. So as the Department of Public Safety, the DPS, which is akin to the Highway Patrol in California and other states, they are the state agency. They can be more aggressive. They have different pursuits that kind of go throughout the whole entire state, whereas local jurisdictions can only follow what they can do. So as you hand these things off from locality to locality, the rules change, whereas DPS, the rules always stay the same, which is why they will take over in this thing and probably bring this to an end. But the most dangerous part, William telling me, is the end of these car chases. We've seen many times. We've seen people commit suicide, run out in the middle of traffic. We have seen, and you see this car up here? You see the police trying to get in front of them? They're going in front because they're trying to drop one more spike strip. So they'll go way ahead, throw one more out there, and get this guy hopefully on all four rims, and that way this thing can be brought to a close very quickly, you would presume.
Yeah, you got to wonder what's going through this person's mind at this point. He's nowhere near, a bunch of trees, a town, an exit that we've seen in a long time. In Texas, you can go on for a long, long way in between those exits. So he's pretty much stuck out there, or she, I should point out. We don't know whether or not this is a man or a woman at this point. But it's a man, I'm told. But at this point, not a whole. Now, let's see if he takes this exit. Yep, there we go. Taking the exit.
Near Corsicana. Harris is near Corsicana?
Exit.
That's exactly where he is.
Exit 232.
Yeah. He's basically out in a very, very rural area, about now more than an hour south of downtown Dallas. Yeah. It's just rained there in the last 20 minutes, Trace and Martha. So driving around on rims is going to be extremely difficult to do. It's extremely slick out there and very muddy.
Yep.
Muddy on a road that he's given himself a lot less leeway. He doesn't have much road to work with here, and that's the thing where it kind of gets questioned. As the road winds, difficult to turn a car that doesn't have any wheels or doesn't have any rubber wheels.
And what the other thing that you're going to start to see the culverts?
Yeah.
I know this area pretty well because my family's from there. They've got culverts down there to catch the rainfall. Well, when those culverts fill up, that rain washes onto the roadway. So he's going to start to kick up probably 4 or 5 inches of water as he kind of goes down into a little valley here. He's going to have to slow down or he's going to skid.
But I'm thinking he's looking for a place to run because he's trying to get into, here's an area with some trees. And, at this point, he's running out of options pretty quickly. And my guess is that this is going to go on foot shortly. But we never know. But we will see. And he's getting into, probably a more farm-like area, I'm imagining, maybe some residential area as well along the way. But there's nobody in front of him at this point.
Right, and the Department of Public Safety had wanted to take over this a few miles ago, and they kind of took the lead on this both with their chopper and their police officers. I've been trying to get them on the phone. So they would have taken it then from state police. But you see all that water that he's just kicking up? He's basically going to run into some puddles down here, which should slow him down. But the Department of Public Safety is in the lead on this right now. And so the jurisdictions have all fallen away as they kind of slow speed chase him up. There he
goes.
goes.
The puddle right there. These things, by the way, are so prevalent in many states, especially in California. They have services that will actually page you. They will page you and tell you when a car chase is underway so that you can get to a television. And people, it's like sport. They go and they watch these things on TV, and you can see him kind of turning off onto a very rural road there in Navarro County, Texas. And as far as we know, that left rear tire is pretty much on the rim right now. We can't really get a close enough view to see what's in the back of that truck. You can see the windows on the side are tinted. We believe he is alone in that car, again, filled up his gas tank and fled. That's what began the pursuit. And then we are told he tried to go after a police officer with his car. That becomes a felony. If this is a third striker, he's going away for a very, very long time. And with helicopters on you, there's police helicopters up in the air, and at least by our count, 6 different troopers following him. This is going to end. He is going to jail. It's only a matter of time of when. As this thing slows down, we'll continue following it here. We'll bring you this as the live desk continues.
Yeah. All right, folks, on a Friday afternoon in Texas, in Navarro County, round and round we go. He's in a neighborhood now. At one point, you could see from the other camera angle that we saw on some of our monitors down here, sort of hanging out the side, talking on his cell phone and waving, it looked like, to the choppers above. Our folks over at the assignment desk are, keeping an eye on that camera. They're very close to this guy. Chris Gutierrez is with us. He's got some local insight for us. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Martha, he's definitely now in the city of Corsicana. It's a population of about 25,000 people down there, again, about 55 miles or so south of Dallas. And the concern now is when you get into these residential areas like he's in now, you have people out at, 12:35 in the afternoon down here in the Lone Star State out for lunch. You can possibly have this guy running red lights now. So it, really adds to the severity of the issue here when he's out on these residential streets and not on the highway anymore, Martha.
The funny thing is, Chris, and we watch this guy. If we can, I hate to go around because we might miss this, but the police about 30 seconds before we came out of the break, they tried to do that pit maneuver. And here it is right here. We also got our eyes on it live. And here it is. Boom. They tried to pit it, didn't work here. So let's go back live to make sure we don't miss the end of this thing. There he is live now. Looks like he's kind of cornering himself in these very rural roads out there. He's been kind of going back and forth. Here it is again. They tried it again on the rear side of that truck. You can see all the water there. The police trying to bump him. The objective in the pit maneuver is to spin the back of the car so that he has to stop. But this guy,
and as you were saying, the police have had some difficulties with some of these car chases recently. They know the choppers and the cameras are all over the skies. They know that they're being watched very closely as well, so they're handling this with kid gloves, and they're trying to make sure that nobody gets hurt. Undoubtedly, we're about to see either a pit maneuver that makes this guy come to a stop, the door will pop open, and the police will have time probably to get their guns out, or he's going to get out of the car and start to run, most likely.
And the wild card for police is always they don't really know exactly what this guy's got inside. I mean, you're in Texas. Who knows if he has a gun inside that cab? So that becomes the wild card here. And police, when they do finally stop this thing, will try and make the best guess they can as to whether this guy is armed. We have heard no reports, by the way, at all that this guy is armed or that he's dangerous in any capacity except for the way that he drives and going after police while they tried to throw down the spike strip. But that said, they still have to take that precaution that this guy is armed. What they really want him to do is try and get out and run, because then they know they have him and they know that he's a lot less dangerous because they can see him in full view. Kind of crossing a mud there. Now he's on a busier street. And just to keep you in mind now, an hour and 36 minutes we are into this car chase. And he's got a full tank of gas. Well, at least he did an hour and 36 minutes ago when he pulled into a gas station, filled up, and fled. So this thing, as far as gas mileage, could go on for quite some time. But we also believe he's on the left rim of his truck And so he's got three wheels at best here. He's on a cell phone. He's taunting helicopters and taunting police by hanging out the window and waving to the helicopters. This guy knows the world is watching him. And you can also see people in different municipalities have also gathered on the streets to watch this. They see it on TV. They come outside and say, hey, let's go out there and watch the truck go by us. And that's what's kind of happening in this at 12:38 Central Time in the Dallas, Texas area in the city of Corsicana, Texas right now.
Looks like he may be winding himself back up onto the highway. Chris Gutierrez, I don't know if you have a better take on where we are, but it looks like he's getting back onto the highway.
He is, and he's heading northbound now on I-45, so essentially that brings him back into the Dallas area. Again, keep in mind, he's probably a good hour south of where we are. You see this cop car here behind him. And the interesting thing, too, Trace, is that you pointed out all the different agencies involved here. I believe this first car behind the truck is actually one of the lead pursuits in terms of where it all started. So this officer may be from Van Alstyne, Texas, for example. So he's way out of his jurisdiction. So I'm wondering if that plays any factor in terms of whether or not that guy's really trying to do the pit maneuver when he gets up close to the bumper when he's making those tight turns.
I wonder, Chris, if
like
he's the guy that he tried to hit with his car, and he's been following him since the get-go. You can bet he's not going anywhere if that's the case.
Yeah, I pointed out a couple of times at the top of the show. I'm sorry, Chris, I just want to jump in here. I just pointed out that they've had a couple of problems, and a lot of officers who went out of their jurisdictions were actually reprimanded in recent chases over the last year. And the reason they said they didn't stop the chase is because they didn't have radio contact, or radio contact was disrupted, so they didn't know that they were supposed to back off the chase. That's why they were reprimanded. So it could be kind of a case of who has radio contact with whom at what time. As you can see, both DPS, the Department of Public Safety, as well as local police involved in this. It's been going on for an hour and 40 minutes, and we on the live desk will continue following this. He's now back. Is he back off the highway?
Yeah, he just took another exit, and they're very close now.
See, there it is, kind of bump the back of him to get him spinning there. And that's local police right there. That's not DPS. As this guy spins over there, he's kind of, is he going the wrong way? All right, we're gonna keep our eyes on this. We've got Harris Faulkner, Tim Gahn, Chris Gutierrez. We have got you covered. 2 camera angles, a high-speed chase, almost an hour and 45 minutes in, continuing coverage on the live desk. Well, it's the car chase that goes on in perpetuity here, an hour and 44 minutes coming into this in Navarro County, Texas. If there's any doubt that this is Texas farm country, about 30 seconds ago, this guy just passed some sheep on the left-hand side of the road. He didn't have to go around them, but that's kind of where he is, out in the middle of nowhere. This car chase has seen speeds of 70 to 75 miles per hour. For the better part of the last 44 minutes, it has been relatively slow. He's gone from highway back to side streets, back to highway, and then to side streets. And now, as you can see, he's on a side street, a rural highway, if you will. And as far as we know, he's got better than a half tank of gas, so he's got some time to go. The question is when he will give up mentally, who he's talking to on the cell phone, because we know that he is talking on the cell phone. Both local police agencies and the Department of Public Safety in Texas involved in this thing. They have tried to do that pit maneuver at least twice, maybe 3 times, and they have failed all 3 times. Kind of a light pit maneuver, just a mild bump on the side there, not even enough to dent the fender. And the question becomes, why not? If you're going to do it, why not do it? Why not give the pit maneuver the full thing and try and spin this guy out? Clearly, you can see the line of police officers involved.
Borders on comical watching this, wind its way through. We're losing our shot here a little bit. Whatever the rest of those tires are, I want to get a set for my car, because they are holding up that truck in a pretty remarkable way. I mean, it looked like that car was on its last legs when it was winding through that neighborhood a little while ago. Now it seems to be enjoying this country ride, and it's got a long trail of police cars behind it. Boy, they must be pretty frustrated at this point. They're probably getting hungry for lunch. They probably want to get this thing over with and go home in one piece. And this guy is leading them on quite a wild goose chase.
You can see the water kind of splashing up as he goes along this highway, right? The water as he goes, and Harris is telling us how much rain they've had. Chris Gutierrez was kind of echoing that. They've had a ton of rain in recent hours, and the water just keeps splashing up. You'd think that would bode well for the police officers. This guy goes through water. He's only got 3 tires. He's on the left-hand rim, and yet it just keeps on going. right? And here he keeps going on the side road, and we don't know exactly who this guy is yet. We think that police probably have a pretty good idea because they have by now run the license plate. And they have an idea of, maybe they're talking to him on a cell phone. We have had many instances where police will actually try and call the suspect on the cell phone and try him, as you would do in a hostage situation, try and talk him down. Try and talk him out of this, saying, look, we're on you. Stop right now. You're already facing a laundry list of charges. Stop and make this thing better, because all you're doing now is you're just adding jail time. Every mile, you're adding more time to what will eventually become a jail sentence, because this guy will get caught.
Yeah, indeed. Harris Faulkner's with us with a little bit more that she's been following in the newsroom. Harris, what have you got?
Yeah, I keep calling every jurisdiction every time he changes town. So I just got off the phone with the police in Corsicana, and they say that he is now back on the road again going north. They are in on this, monitoring this. But again, it is the Department of Public Safety that they feel has taken the lead on this thing. And as it goes town to town, they're just kind of jumping in. He would be headed back toward Ennis, which we all know is right where he came from. According to the Corsicana Police Department, they say he is headed north, kind of backtracking his steps again. They thought maybe he had family there. Who knows? Maybe he'd gone there for some reason. But now with him backtracking, he's either lost or just driving out that tank of gas at this point. But Corsicana is in on this. They are monitoring it. And has, he's picked up yet another jurisdiction's worth of cops as he heads on someplace. And now back through the rain. They've had quite a bit of rainfall. They thought that maybe the water would help them out, but it hasn't so far, as he drives around on mostly rims at this point.
Yeah. If you're just tuning in, just to kind of remind you about the backdrop here, we've been watching a great tour of a good part of Texas in the Dallas area this afternoon. The driver of this pickup truck pulled into a gas station, filled up the gas tank, took off without paying, and that is how this all began. The police started to chase him. They threw out spike strips, and he actually dodged his car in the direction of one of those policemen trying to hit him, one of the deputies. They hopped in their cars, and all along the way, they have been adding more police cars to this chase, and some state troopers involved as well. It looked like when they finally got off the highway, he was on the highway for a really long time, over an hour on the highway. Finally took an exit after the spike strips penetrated that back left tire, and that, as Harris said, probably riding on some pretty hard metal at this point. Got up into a sort of more urban kind of city neighborhood for a while, and now is taking a ride through Navarro County, Texas, with at least 5 or 6, maybe 8 or 9 police cars trailing behind.
It's interesting to note that you would think that all the information is coming from police helicopters and so forth, but I can tell you from experience that a lot of the information that police officers are being given in those cars behind that F-150 truck is being gleaned from what we're saying, from Fox News, because they watch this. They can get an idea of the mapping. Here it is again. They tried to give him another pit. You saw the cop go off in there, and he's spinning out, but the truck just keeps going, right? The truck's going. The cop tries the pit maneuver, and the truck just keeps going. He's kind of looking at his rear like, come on.
I'm sure they know what they're doing, but it looks like,
that guy didn't.
Uneducated police driving eye, it looks like they ought to be able to, get this guy, knock him in the back a little bit, spin that truck out, and get him out of there. This sounds like 6 or 7 times, right? They tried to tap the back.
Yeah, I mean, the cops in California are like, okay, look, we're going to have pit maneuver training down in Texas coming next week. The deal here is you want to get on that side and you want to get that thing to turn, and you want to make sure that it's on that wheel that doesn't have a wheel on it anymore. And that way you kind of skid that thing and stop this. And at least you saw the police car spin out there. It was in the water, and it's all wet down there on the grassy side of the road. And they spin out, and that's what the hope would be. And so far it has not worked out for them on at least 5 occasions that we have seen as this chase continues. I was kind of saying that police they get a lot of information from watching this on television. Local police and state police getting a lot of their information and then relaying it to the officers who are on the ground as to where he's going, as to what direction he's heading in, as far as what's up the road. I mean, the police are kind of behind him. They may or may not know where this area is, and so the police back at the stations are giving them information saying, okay, he's coming up to this, he's coming up to this intersection, he's coming up to this. This might be a good time to try that pit maneuver in Navarro County, Texas.
I'd love to know what they're learning from those cell phone calls, because we saw a little while ago, we lost a shot for a moment there, as sometimes happens. Now, this is the other angle, and a while back they saw him sort of hanging out the window, and that's how we identified him as a man, talking on a cell phone and kind of waving up to the choppers above. And now this is an interesting move here.
Here we go. There.
If he makes it through this one. All right, we're going to take a quick break, right?
I hate to.
No, we're good. Okay. So, all right. So we're gonna watch this play out. They're side by side. You wonder if there's any communication between these two cars at this point. They have to be getting frustrated and tired of this and ready to bump.
And that's an unmarked car. I mean, the interesting thing here is that's an unmarked car. So you've had DPS. And you've had local police, and now it looks like, and I don't know, I mean, Chris Gutierrez, you know the area much better than I do. It looks like an unmarked car from DPS getting involved in this. There's no sirens on top. What do you make of this?
It appeared to me he was actually trying to do what we know as a rolling roadblock. Essentially, you slow down in front of this guy and make him get off onto the grass. And we know that it's been raining here for the past 24 hours. And if he's really on all three wheels like we can see here, he's not going to get very far. I think the big question, though, Trace, is, we're on these rural areas, in this rural area. And in fact, we think he's on FM 1129, heading northbound towards a Texas town we know as Gun Barrel City. So if that is in fact where he's heading, he's going to be on this FM, this farm to market road, a real rural area for a while. Why not try to do that pit maneuver? A second ago we saw that
Chris,
unmarked
They
car
tried it a couple of times and they failed. I mean, they've tried this by our count 4 or 5 different times. One just spun the police officer out. So it stands to reason they have at least tried this 4 or 5 times, right?
You bet. But what I'm saying, Trace, is that they should actually try it again before he starts getting into those, more populated areas. And in fact, you see that UPS truck just drove by there. It's almost like the unmarked car behind him, pulled up beside him to see what he was working with and then pulled back behind. They try that rolling roadblock where they'll get in front of him, they'll slow way down, and they'll try and get him to turn off. But, again, I'm not sure what they're waiting for.
And he manages to get himself into a situation at least 3 times so far where nobody's in front of him. They pull in front of him, he pulls off at an exit or takes a turn, and then they lose him. And
this guy, by all accounts, is a criminal, but he is putting on a clinic on how to go with a high-speed chase. He has gone around 4 or 5 different spike strips. He has avoided now the pit maneuver on several occasions, gone onto highways and back onto rural highways. And he still goes an hour and 53 minutes after he allegedly took off from filling his gas tank up without paying, and then tried to go after a police officer who was putting down a spike strip. A Ford F-150 truck. I almost said Chevy. Boy, that would have got me in a ton of trouble. A Ford F-150 truck still going now with the left tire out as we continue coverage. And Harris Faulkner, what are you getting on this from police scanners?
Well, it's absolutely true what you're saying, that this is Department of Public Safety. That unmarked vehicle, that would be them. I've contacted their headquarters down in Austin, and they are definitely working on this. I just can't get any more comment from them at this point. Look at all these police officers. 6, 7, it is amazing how many of these squads and now DPS are on the job, and a Department of Public Safety chopper on the job as well. They are simply letting this guy, it would seem, run his gas tank out. And I got to tell you, that could still be yet a while. Yeah. Since we know reportedly he had already filled it up. One of the things that was said to me from one of the police departments that I've talked with today, because he's been on several different freeways in many different counties, was that when he pointed his car or veered at that police officer, that was a high felony. Yeah. And I know I've heard you guys talking about the 3 strikes and all of that. That's really all they needed to take him down for quite some time when they do eventually stop him. They may, in fact, be talking with him. We have been able to confirm that more than likely he's in there by himself. Those tinted windows kept us from knowing that before. At least one jurisdiction was able to tell me we do believe he's by himself inside that car. They got a pretty good look, and as we all did as he was waving or whatever he was doing, when he left that initial gas station, reportedly, where that sheriff's deputy was going after him. So,
yeah. Well, that's good news that he's on his own because he's heading towards, unpleasant future, no doubt. And we just hope that they're able to bump him in the back, get this guy out of the car, and bring him in without any event. But, you have to wonder at this point. This guy is desperately dragging this out in a way that we haven't seen in a very, very long time.
Yeah, 2 hours of running. We are continuing breaking news here on the live desk. A car chase like we have not seen in quite some time is unfolding down in Texas. It is in Navarro County, Texas, which is about an hour outside of Dallas, Texas. We will continue to cover this on the live desk.
At least 6 or 7 at this point attempts to do a pit maneuver on the back of this truck. The truck, it's incredible. It seems to be doing better, the truck, than it was when it was in the urban area. Seems to be moving along just fine. We don't know where he's headed, if he has a place in mind. He was on the cell phone, waving out the window at the choppers above. He filled up his gas tank, if you're just joining us, and took off without paying. That started a police pursuit. He then aimed his car and tried to hit a police officer who was on the side of the road trying to throw out spike strips. And that is what got him in a heap of trouble, for which he no doubt will face federal charges in this case.
And this thing has been going on now for 2 hours. And anybody who owns an F-150, get on to Twitter or our blog and let us know how long these things can go on a full tank of gas, because this guy, before this whole thing started, apparently had a full tank of gas. If you're just joining us at the top of the hour, they have tried the pit maneuver. If you're wondering why not just go up and try the pit maneuver, they have tried that. No fewer than 5 times they have failed. No fewer than 5 times, clearly because this guy is continuing to go. He has, along the route here, gone out the window with his cell phone and waved at the helicopters above him. He knows he's being watched. There are also spectators in the little towns that he goes through, spectators coming out and watching this thing unfold live as we are. 2 hours this thing has been going, and we laughed last hour because this guy has broken so many laws we can't count them, yet when he changes lanes, he uses his signal. He tries to stop at stop signs, at least gives it a half-hearted effort, and goes through, and yet has broken a number of laws. And the point here is that Texas is a 3-strike state. We don't know if this guy is a criminal. We don't know what his record is, but here, you see him go over that line there. But this is a felony. And you can see this kind of truck kind of brocket there, and you can see him going off. That's the first time into the grass. They're trying to bump this guy out. Now you got a police on both sides to kind of get this guy caged in, and he's got to. Here we go. This is that rolling barricade maneuver that Chris Gutierrez was talking about, and here we go.
Bumper cars.
Wow. That grass, by the way, is very wet. Surprising that he went off into the grass and then was able to get back on the freeway. But you can see they're kind of slowing him down. There's the pit. There's the back bumper. You can see him. He's going back. This guy's not giving up. Oh, another pit maneuver. A backside pit. There he goes into the water, and
here we go. Guns drawn. Police are out of their cars. Let's see who gets out of this truck. There he is.
Throw him to the ground. Well, by our clock, 2 hours and about 2 or 3 minutes, and the car chase in Texas has finally ended. This guy was put under by the pit maneuver after a number of tries. You can see the water on there. Boy, I don't know what else to say except that it's over.
Impressive finish, though. At least that policeman must have been pretty happy when he went into that large puddle on the side of the road. They ended up getting him in a rolling roadblock technique, that flatbed truck in front. And this guy is headed to jail, and no doubt they have a number of questions for this man. I'm trying to get a closer look at him. He basically landed in the mud when they pulled him out of the car. He's a white male, medium height. Difficult to tell you much more about him than that. But, man, this is a day that will change that man's life forever. There's no doubt about it, because he never should have left that gas station without paying for the gas. And that was the day everything changed for this man who's about to
get a pretty stiff questioning.
We hope he enjoyed his ride because he's now going to jail.
Bye-bye.
And we leave that story and begin anew. There is breaking news on the live desk. We are waiting for President